Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 3 of the Corona tutorials. In this section we're going to cover some of the basic libraries of Corona, including the displays, events, listeners, widgets, timers, and transitions. In this first section we'll be covering the basics of using display objects and drawing objects to the screen. So you'll see in your files folder there should be a display object folder with a main file and a final example. Go ahead and open both of those up in Sublime Text, and we're going to go ahead and work in the main file for now. So once you have your Sublime Text and Corona Editor set up and running, what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and create a new shape, named New Shape, and then do display.new rectangle, new rect. And in order to draw a rectangle on the screen, we need to give it 4 variables, an x, a y, a width, and a height. So go ahead and give it any x and y location, and then as well we're going to need to give it the width and height. So I'm going to give it 100 and 200. Once you save this, you'll see it should draw a white rectangle on your screen in the location that you provided at the size that you provided. Now if you try changing these, you'll see that once you've saved it, it'll automatically change its new shape. Now the x and y locations that you're giving it are in fact central, so they are the center of the object. So whatever you put them as, that is where the center of the object will be. So if we put it at 75 and 100 here, you'll see that it perfectly fits the edge because this is half of the width and half of the height of this object. So when you're drawing a rectangle, keep in mind that this is the center location of that object. Next we're going to go ahead and draw an image on screen. So I've provided a basic image for you guys in the folder. So you'll see you have an image.png, but feel free to take any images that you have that you'd want to see on your screen and pop them in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and display that image. So we're going to do new image equals display.newImage, and then you want to give it the name of the image that you have in this folder, and then go ahead and save. And you'll see at this point we have a partial view of the image that I've provided in the top corner. Now it's not fully showing because it's drawing to the center at 0, 0, so we're only seeing the bottom right corner. So let's go ahead and give this a location. I'm going to give it 240 and 360. So you'll see now we have my nice little smiley face showing up on the center area of the screen. So this is how you display an image, display.newImage. There's also display.imageRect, newImageRect. So we're going to do test image rect equals display.newImageRect, R-E-C-T. So what this does is it creates an image that scales within a rectangle that you provide. So I'm going to give it the same image.png, but this time the next 2 variables that I give it aren't its x and y, but its width and its height. So I'm going to say 180. So now we'll see a second image just barely showing in the top corner, but we're not really seeing it here because, like before, it's centering on 0, 0. So let's give it a different x and y value. So we're going to give it .x at 120, and it's .y at 120 as well. And now we'll see that we have a very small version of this image showing up here. And this version is 100 pixels wide and 80 pixels tall, as we gave it in this. So this is a great way to scale an image that you have provided to whatever shape and size you'd like it to be. So now we also see here that you can actually change the x and y location of an image after you've created it. So let's try changing this original image that we made and moving it somewhere new. So let's say newImage.y equals 600. You'll see once you save that it's now much further down than where it was because we're telling its Y location to be at 600 pixels down instead of the original 360. So this is the way to move images around on your screen. Next we're going to go ahead and take a look at rotation. So if you go ahead and write test image rect.rotation, this is the variable for changing the rotation of an object. So if we set it to 90, it'll change 90 degrees. You'll see here that it's turned sideways. We can do 180, it'll be upside down. 270 should be sideways. And then of course 0 would set it back to its default. So you can also do negative, so negative 90 would be the equivalent of 270, and any number it will translate to that 360 space. So that is rotation. Next up is image scale. So let's go ahead and tell that new image colon scale. Now scale takes two values. It's the width and then the height. So it's x scale and it's y scale. So if we gave it an x scale and a y scale of 2, so 2, 2, you'll now see this image is twice the size it once was. But we don't have to scale those together at the same rate. We could give it 1.5 and 2, which will give it 150% and 200% scale. So you'll see now it's slightly squished in. We could even scale down the x and out on the y to make it super thin in this sense. And of course we can do this in the opposite way as well. Have it be incredibly wide but very thin, or not very tall. So that's the basics of scale. Now you can also do scale independently of each other. So we can do .y scale equals 2, and this will independently set the y scale without changing the x scale. So now we have it being 2 and 0.5, but then we're changing the 0.5 to 2, getting a scale of 2 and 2. So that's the basics of scaling an image. You can also use this to scale other objects. So we could scale that rectangle we originally created. See the rectangle is much larger than it once was. And you can scale, you can rotate, you can do anything to any type of display object that we show here. Last item we're going to show here is fill color. So what we're going to do is set fill color of the new shape, the rectangle, and let's go ahead and set it to 0.3. So what this does is it makes our rectangle gray, and it's 30% gray. So this 0.3 is out of a space of 0 to 100. So 0.3 is 30% gray. Now this is great for if you want to set it anywhere between 0 and 1 for black to white, but what if we wanted to set it to a color? You can't do that with just one number. You need 3 numbers, and that is the R, G, and B values. So let's go ahead and give it 1, 0, 0. This will set it to red because it's 100% red, 0 green, 0 blue. We could also do all red and green, making a nice yellow. Mixes in with our smiley faces. Or we could do something like this, create an off magenta, and so forth. So that's the basics of setting colors. Objects like the shape also have the opportunity to have a stroke, which is a border around it, but we're not going to cover that in this section. The last item for this section is removing objects. So right now we have 2 smiley faces and a rectangle. Let's go ahead and get that smaller smiley face removed from the screen. So we're going to do test image rect : remove self. Now remove self is a function that tells this object to be removed from the screen and sent to garbage collection. So you'll see now it's no longer on the screen. Once you remove an object, you can no longer have changes to it. So if we were to try to change the rotation of this object, it's not going to make a difference because it's not there. If we were to tell it to scale, it will not work because there's nothing to scale. So you can only make changes to an object if it still exists. Once you've removed it, it's no longer present, it cannot run. In fact, trying to make this change will cause issues because you're actually giving an order, giving a method and function to an object that no longer exists. So that sums up the first section. In the next section, we're going to cover display groups and how to group together multiple images into one collection.